So it was second time around for me. And I didn't realize initially.
Hello and welcome to Obehi podcast. I'm your host, Obehi A14, and I strongly believe that everyone has a story to share. Now let's get started with this episode.
It was actually at the end of the relationship, after the discard phase. He did tell me, if you remember earlier on, I did say to you that he did tell me that he had a clinical diagnosis. And lots of things happened to me. And when I look back on that, I'm thinking, oh my, I cannot believe that happened to me. That I allowed that, but I didn't know. And it was after we'd split up. It was we'd split up, and I didn't even know what the heck was happening. Honestly, I was like, "Are we done or are we not?" We were engaged to be married, and and we had a holiday. And that's the other thing; they will spoil really nice events. We were due to go on holiday, and he just ruined it and decided that he was leaving. He didn't actually say we're done, but I'm going back to the States, and so left me with this mess that I had to sort out. And I was very confused. I didn't know whether we were still in a relationship or not. And that's what they do. They love to keep you in a state of confusion as well. And then they can control you. You're easier to control. So I didn't know what was going on. And until something flashed up on my phone, and it was an article about narcissism. And then I suddenly remembered, oh yeah, he said that he was he was a narcissist. He had narcissistic personality disorder. And I read that article, and that was the turning point in my life. I could not believe what I was reading. And I remember falling to my knees and thinking, oh my gosh, I have been abused all this time and had no clue. It was devastating, but also liberating for me, because I felt vindicated, because it was like, actually, this wasn't my fault. It wasn't anything that I had done, but it was the pain of knowing that, I'd been abused, the shame of that, the humiliation, excuse me, the humiliation of that was really hard. It didn't take me 10 years this time round. First time round, it was 10 years, and I didn't know what was going on then. This time it took me a lot less to get back. But what I did do this time round was I now understood what had happened to me. And so I was prepared to do something about it. So for me, it was learning all that I could about narcissism, because what happened was, most people that find out that they've been in a relationship with a narcissist is usually after they've left and they've done the reading, because they know something isn't right. They know, and they end up on Google and they're thinking, oh my goodness, it's a really weird phenomenon. They know something isn't right. So they will go ahead and try and think, they'll try to find out, what is going on here? What is this? So for me, it just happened that something did actually flag up on my phone, and I read it. And after that, I was on this mission to know everything that I could about narcissism. It actually got quite obsessive, to the point where 6 months down the line, I went completely no contact, completely. I mean, I just burnt the bridge behind me. There was no way back for him. I just burnt it. That wasn't easy. It was really hard, very, very hard. And it took time, 6 months down the line, and I'm still coming home from work, having something to eat, and then I'm on the internet from like 5 o'clock till 11, 12 o'clock at night. And I'm thinking, this is not healthy, Marcia. I can't keep doing this. This is 6 months and I'm still doing this. So I had to go and get help for myself and to process all of that stuff that I was reading, because every time I read something or read somebody's experience, I could relate to it. And what I was doing, I didn't realize at the time, I was re-traumatizing myself over and over and over. And that was what was keeping me trauma bonded. That was what was keeping me being obsessive about reading and learning about this. It wasn't a healthy way in which I was doing it. But I understood 6 months down the line, I caught myself and just thought, this ain't right. I need to do something about this. And I sought therapy for myself, and was helping. And then I'd have conversations with other women, and lots of us were sharing similar stories. I mean, not everybody who had a toxic relationship was in a narcissistic one, but there was a lot of similarities, and I felt that it was starting to become apparent for me that this is where things were heading for me. So we would have conversations, and I would be helping women, and they'd be like, oh my goodness, Marcia, thank you for sharing that with me, because I think that's what's happened to me. I've been in a, and that's how it kind of evolved for me. And that in itself was very therapeutic. So getting the support for myself, doing the learning, but not get obsessive about it in the way that I did. I mean, it was bad. And I had to then go off and seek therapy to process all of that stuff, all of that pain, all of that trauma that I had experienced. And that's what's brought me to this place today. So you can find me. My business is called Life Inspired Wellness. So I have a website, lifeinspiredwellness.com. So you can find me on there. I also have a podcast, which is Apple Podcasts, and that is Free to Be Me. So you can find me on there, Marcia Hylton, Free to Be Me podcast. I'm also on LinkedIn. So you can find me on LinkedIn just under Marcia Hylton. And I'm also on Instagram, marcia.hylton.5. So you can find me in those places as well. You can drop me a message on the email on the website, and I'll certainly get back to you. So yeah, those are the places where you can find me. When you are in a relationship or you're about to embark on a relationship, please notice. Be aware of the red flags that we talked about. So then do your research, and be aware of the red flags. Your relationship happened quickly. So something in your gut that doesn't feel too right. They separate you from your family and friends. So you might find that they move you to another city or another part of where you somewhere else, or, completely different environment. And what that is doing is removing you from your network of people, and in order for them to control you. So those are things that you can look out for. Those things are quite common. So that's one. The other thing is to think about your boundaries. What are your boundaries? Have them strong. What are your values? Because they're connected to your boundaries. What is important to you? What is important? For me, it was all about freedom. It was all about family. Those things that are really important. What happens when we find ourselves in relationships like that is that we've not had any boundaries. We keep moving the goalposts to support this person that we're with. Let us have boundaries that are non-negotiable. Things that show up, you have identified as a non-negotiable. Let them know from the beginning that's not going to run with you. You need to leave. You need to remove yourself away, because it's not going to end well. So make sure that your boundaries are really, really strong. Know what your non-negotiables are in a relationship, and let your potential partner know what those non-negotiables are. An example might be, if you're going to cheat, that's non-negotiable. If I catch you in that, it's done. And stick with it. Do not move the goalpost, because if you do, you're giving the narcissist or the toxic person the signal that they can do anything and you'll accept it. So those are things that you need to be thinking about. The other thing that I would say is forgiveness. And I know that's a hard one. It's a really tough one. But you need to forgive you first. Remember that you haven't done anything wrong. You found yourself in a toxic relationship. You found yourself in a relationship with a disordered person. None of this was your fault. Okay, you were manipulated and controlled. So so forgive yourself, and forgive the other person, forgive the perpetrator. And remember that forgiving them isn't about condoning what they have done. It's not about saying, it was, you're saying it's okay that they hurt you and did all of those things to you. No, you're not saying that at all. But what you're doing by forgiving, you're releasing yourself. You're releasing yourself. And then the other thing that I would say as well is to seek the help, get the help, the professional help to help you process all of that. Because it's easy for me to say, do this, this, and this, and this. But sometimes we need the support to help us through that. So to forgive somebody, it's not easy, but we can give you tools and strategies to help you on that journey, and understanding that, a lot of it is around the trauma that you've experienced. And, somebody, professional person will be able to help you work through that trauma, which will lead you toward, and you have to understand why. You need to understand your own behaviors. And once you've done that, it's easier with the help of a professional to learn how to forgive and what that actually means, because not everybody understands what forgiveness is. You are more powerful than you think, as women particularly. You're more powerful than you think. Okay? And it's about understanding that you do have the power to change your life. You can redefine the power in your life. And also remember, everything that you have gone through, the pain, the humiliation, the shame, all of that stuff, there will be a gift in there for you. My gift is the work that I'm doing now. It didn't feel like that when it was happening to me. I felt like I couldn't go on. But in all of that, each one of you have a gift to bring to the world. You have a voice to be able to speak, to help somebody else. And it might not be that you do the work that I'm doing. It might be having a conversation with someone, in the supermarket or something like that. But you have a gift. You have something that you need to bring to the world. And that is my belief. Particularly people who have experienced this kind of awful, awful abuse. There is something, a message that you need to bring, and let it find expression in whatever way that is, whether it's through art, whether it's through work, similar work to what I do, maybe it's through writing. You have a gift and you need to bring it to the world. So remember that this did not happen for nothing.
If you enjoy this podcast, make sure you subscribe so you never miss any of our future episodes. Rate and review Obehi podcast and share with your friends who might need it. I remain Obehi A14. Thank you so much for listening, and talk to you in the next episode.